There we go. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Bluestockings online event series. Just a final reminder that this call is being recorded and will be published to our YouTube. So for those of you who don't know, this is Bluestockings scattered to the winds. But we are a small, collectively run intersectional feminist bookstore and activist space that's been part of the Lower East Side community for over 20 years now. Like a lot of small businesses, we are really hurting right now because our store is closed and we still have landlords and rent to deal with no income stream. So we have been completely relying on membership and donations. So if you have the means to make a small donation, or even better, to become a sustaining member, you are literally our lifeblood right now, and it'll ensure that we're able to reopen when it's safe to and continue to serve our Lower East Side community. So I'll drop a couple of those links in the chat, but for now, I'm going to turn things over to Red.
Thanks so much, Matilda. And thanks for everyone for being here this morning. So hey y'all, my name's Red. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a part of the Support Host Collective and help coordinate our Justice for Alisha Walker defense campaign. I'll be joined, hopefully, by my comrade and dear friend Alisha in roughly 30 minutes by phone. She's attempting to call from inside Decatur Correctional Center, AKA Hell, in downstate Illinois. And there have been multiple issues with their phone access recently due to new punishment policies brought on by the pandemic. So we're just playing that by ear, fast and loose, and we can kind of respond to whatever Alisha's needs are when she's able to call. So I can like move content around based on when she's calling us. Alisha and her fellow incarcerated comrades have been condensed into fewer units, meaning their access to phones has shrunk, and there are new highly restrictive time limitations put on phone use. So in case she's not able to join us for this call, LeLe has sent ahead written responses as well that I'll share out about art making, prison newsletters, and conditions inside right now. I wanted to start with a heartfelt thank you to Matilda and Bluestockings Books. Y'all have been such amazing comrades to us as a collective, and also to Alisha directly. And I feel really lucky to be a part of the community and collective that is Bluestockings. Much, much appreciation and love. If folks on this call haven't already considered becoming sustaining members of the space, I want to just take a moment and also just put that out there again. And if you're at all able to consider something like that right now in this moment, please do, because Bluestockings needs you. It's a queer, trans, and sex worker led space. And so that's so rare in this world and so beautiful. And so really, really wanted to just put that out there. Both Alisha and those of us in Support Hose wanted to do this event as a fundraising effort for Bluestockings, as well, to raise awareness around just how few sex worker like spaces there are that allow folks to come be in community and build radical, compassionate, like, I don't know, structures of care for one another. And that space has done that with and for us. So who the hell am I? Who is Alisha? What is Support Hose? Like I said before, I'm Red, I'm an organizer, I make zines, and I've probably invited you to a letter writing event for incarcerated comrades if you live in Chicago or New York. So you've seen me there. I've probably like compelled you to stuff envelopes and lick stamps. That's me. Alisha Walker, who I'll be joined by either in written response or by phone, is a 27-year-old former sex working person, originally from Akron, Ohio. And in January of 2014, Alisha was contacted by a returning client, Alan Filan. And this is where I'll give some content warning and trigger warnings for folks. So mute me or take a walk away if you don't want to hear some of the details of Alisha's case. I'm not going to get into extreme details, but there are mentions of whorephobic and racist violence and an attack on her life. So content and trigger warnings now, y'all. Take deep breaths, walk away if you need to. So she was contacted by this returning client, Alan Filan, who had agreed to pay her and another sex worker for sex in his Orland Park house. And this was back in 2014, like I said. And when Alisha and the other sex worker arrived, Phylan was very intoxicated and demanded that the sex be unprotected. Now, Alisha and her fellow worker refused what they saw as totally unsafe services for themselves, asserting that Phylan had to stick to their agreed upon terms. Phylan became violent. He punched Alisha in the face before grabbing a knife from the kitchen, and Phylan threatened both women with the knife. Alisha then struggled with him. She managed to wrestle the knife away, stabbing him in self-defense, and both she and her fellow worker fled. Phylan was still alive when they left his house. Alisha was arrested and charged with second-degree murder despite no physical evidence ever being recovered. She was held without trial for 20 months in Cook County, and at her trial, the prosecutor portrayed Alisha as a manipulative criminal, a mastermind of crime, calling her a monster, and spoke disparagingly about her family and her profession as a sex worker. Her defense attorneys sexually harassed her and never requested bond. A jury convicted her of second-degree murder, and Alisha was sentenced to 15 years in prison. She is currently incarcerated at Decatur Correctional Center in Decatur, Illinois. So that's a little bit about Alisha's case and what brings her to the struggle, right? The Supportives Collective, which we're a part, is a small, very small, leftist formation of sex workers, current and former, and our trusted co-conspirators and accomplices that's based in Chicago and also New York. We aim to build radical community for all sex workers through political education and public agitation. And we also coordinate the Justice for Alisha Walker Defense Campaign, which is a popular grassroots campaign demanding Alisha's freedom. We're currently a closed collective, meaning that we don't accept new membership. We decided to remain closed until Alisha is free. That was a decision that we kind of made together based on the kind of work that we needed to do and kind of keeping our central focus on Alisha. Y'all, we are real small. We're real small, and more than happy to be. People often confuse large membership with success and effectiveness in organizing. And while it is so awesome to have a show of force in numbers, where we've found ourselves is preferring to work with very trusted accomplices who have demonstrated through their work that our politics align. And our approach has been this. We've built trust slowly and patiently, prioritizing political education and correspondence with our loved ones inside, and rely a lot on our periphery of comrades who aren't necessarily part of the organized collective, but who rise up with us to do work when they have capacity to support us. And this has worked for us. And so I just wanted to share that you should never think that a small dedicated group of folks can't get shit done, because you can. And it's really important to have that trust building, especially if you're going to be a small formation. And as for our work, we've primarily provided resource-based support for grassroots organizing, including information on building popular defense campaigns for criminalized survivors of gender-based violence, inspired by and supported by our comrades in Survived and Punished. We've created sex worker-centered political education syllabi. We've assisted other organizations in planning protests and demonstrations, holding space for formal and informal knowledge sharing, sessions, doing know your rights trainings for other activist sex workers, produce toolkits on media, health and wellness from sex working perspectives. But really our main organizing focus currently is to provide material support to Alisha while we advocate for her release, to create art and political education resources for other sex workers and those looking to center decriminalizing all survival tactics in their own political analyses. So that's a little bit of an overview of who Support Hose, who we are, and what we do as a collective. And wanted to also just share a little horror story of our collective as well, and kind of walk folks through. Because we get this a lot. We get questions online a lot of like, how long have you been doing this? How did you get started doing this? And so just wanted to kind of give folks a little bit more of an intentional overview. So we've been active for a little over 4 years now. In late March of 2016, we organized our first demonstration in solidarity with Alisha Walker and all criminalized incarcerated sex workers who had survived violence. It was our first formal action as a collective. And since then, we've fundraised, visited, developed friendships, and organized alongside LeLe. We've protested, found pro bono legal aid for her, and launched a grassroots campaign for clemency. We've developed, like I said before, a syllabus for political education reading groups for our own sex working comrades and accomplices in adjacent queer communities. And that's something that we can send to any and all of you. And it's basically a catalog of things that we read and watched and listened to together for discussion and like roundtabling. We've taken public space. We've held teach-ins, trainings, knowledge shares, hosted letter writing events, know your rights events, and crafts-based and making workshops to demand rights, respect, and protection of sex working people. We definitely believe that art in practice and action in the streets are inherently connected. In terms of the art that we've made, we've created print resources like zines, posters, banners to more artistically intervene with sex workers' resistance and visual culture. And we've also created a best practice resource for writing letters to incarcerated folks that survived and punished is also included in their newly released letter writing resources and toolkits on their website, which is an amazing, amazing resource. I really think that people should visit that, the Survived and Punished website, and just absorb and then practice because there's so many amazing resources there. In addition to that, the toolkits that we've developed for media use and for health and wellness professionals to become more sex work competent and create ethical conditions for working alongside sex workers or caring with sex workers was some of the first resources we created. And through Alisha's direct inside organizing and relationship building, we've been able to build many comradeships with others inside at Decatur and Logan correctional prisons. We've seen the release of one of our comrades, Judy, who we've also co-authored a forthcoming book chapter with that'll be a part of an anthology of sex worker writing through Feminist Press. We've also engaged in mutual aid efforts to help Judy and her partner establish their new life together in Illinois post-release. We're currently and have supported our undocumented comrade Lorena, which is a pseudonym to protect her identity, in voicing condition concerns at Logan with the help of the Hacking Hustling Collective. We've gotten Lorena commissary support to continue being able to correspond with comrades outside and also get the hygiene items that she needs. We've also continued to expand our organizing work in New York City and are helping to build radical community amongst current and former sex working people and co-conspirators. That's always our first and foremost goal, is to help foster that radical community amongst workers and those in the trade. We've been humbled and really thankful to forge bonds and continue working alongside Survived and Punished New York, Hacking Hustling, Red Light Reader, Red Canary Song, Kink Out, Bluestockings, and No New Jails, New York City, along with other renegade comrades who we learn from every day. And so that gives us a little sense of some of the work that we have done, some of the work that we've been doing, and a little bit about our motivation around building out a structure of support and solidarity, both in Chicago and also in New York, which is a lot. It's a whole lot. And I think a lot of folks on the call right now, I'm just looking at our participant list, have also been engaged in this community building and also movement building work. And so I'm really, really thankful to have y'all on the call as well, and building out this new resource, which will be recorded and shared, and hopefully hear from Alisha and get to not just hear her voice, but also get updates in real time from her about what's going on inside of Decatur, and talk more about art making as a practice of both self-care and also community and collective care. So I wanted to just take a moment because I'm seeing some chat activity. Oh, great. Thank you, Matilda, for sharing those. So hopefully folks have some time to check out these resources. We've got links here right now in the chat to supporting Bluestockings, but also to following the work that we've been doing online, the Justice for Alisha Walker Defense Campaign on Facebook, also our Tumblr. Yes, we are still holding it out on Tumblr. They haven't deleted all of our quote unquote adult content yet, though they have flagged many of our videos from protests because of tags like sex work. We're also very difficult to search for and find online because of pretty rampant shadow banning practices, and also just good old fashioned bad algorithmic, data. And so either way, direct links are the best way for y'all to follow us. So definitely copy these down, bookmark them. Can we turn on Donna's mic and also Erica F's mic?
Thank you for the beautiful presentation.
Yes. Donna, am I hearing you?
Yes, that's me.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you're able to be on the call.
Yeah, I was really happy I was able to make it too.
Yes. So, so y'all right now are hearing Donna's voice. Donna helped hold things down for us in New York with Support Hose for the last few years. And we'll get more into some of Donna's reflective work in one of our zines later when we do our zine reading. And we'll also hear from and share out a little bit about Donna's work, Erica's work in the zines, and another one of our collective members, Erin. And so we'll be hearing some actual work from them in a little bit, but love to hear y'all's voices and that you're actually able to be on the call with us.
Yep, hello.
Hey, and there's Erica's voice.
It's nice
so glad to
building
have you
that
on
voice.
here.
Yeah, I'm just excited to be here, and I love seeing the work that y'all are doing right now, because I know that summer is usually such an active season, and I don't want it to be like an inactive season just because people are kind of going to be home a little bit more, you know? So I'm excited to see so much mobilization happening around getting people out of prisons. And I really do feel like people have been more active, I feel like, because they're at home. And that's exciting to see. There's been a lot more of my friends reaching out to learn how to call people and how to call clerks' offices and stuff like that, and wanting to kind of spend their free time doing it. And so that's been really exciting to see.
Yeah, and I mean, everything that's happening back in Chicago right now with the mobilizations and the caravans is really inspiring. And like, I know really like doing similar things here in New York too, but just with the sheer fact of having comrades in Chicago, closer proximity, and being able to do those caravan mobilizations more frequently, like actually surrounding Cook County Jail, which is where Alisha was incarcerated without trial for over 20 months. Like just thinking about everyone encircling that hellscape and and just blasting their horns and like flying banners and like staying safe while still like sticking it to Cook County Jail was life-giving. It was really reinvigorating to see those images coming out of Chicago.
Yeah, and I do think that folks on bikes have really just, I feel like even with delivery and mobilizing to help make sure people are still getting books and groceries and the things that they need. I've been seeing a lot of bike mobilization in Chicago, which has been really wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all, I gotta express and be honest about my nervousness about Alisha being able to call in. You know, I just want to make space and room for that. Right now, there's 9 of us on this call. I know almost every single one of you. So real talk. Alisha and I have been able to call on the phone at least every other day. When this first started, going back almost 5 weeks ago, and they still had regular access to the phones 5 weeks ago, she was calling twice a day. And so because the panic and the fear was just like so palpable and high, and so she was calling to check in and say like, we still don't have any word about this. Can you let me know what's happening in the news? And so we were like doing a morning check-in and an evening check-in, or kind of around that. And as the weeks have worn on, y'all, like, we've gotten to experience in real time what those new punishment policies inside of the prisons look like because of the pandemic. And it's wild. Decatur is running wild, and it's not an exception. I can share a little bit about what's happening at Logan also, which is where one of our, we have a lot of pen pals there, and Comrades and Moms United Against Violence and Incarceration, and also Love and Protect, have a lot of comrades inside of Logan. Alisha has a lot of friends, loved ones, chosen family inside of Logan. And that was where she was incarcerated after Cook County initially. If Decatur is bad, I mean, Logan is like next level right now, is what we're hearing from folks inside. And our comrade Lorena, who has been able to email us, but not able to access phones and call us, has been talking about just the rampant unsanitary conditions, the fear, the kind of internal tensions that are now just like really explosive amongst fellow incarcerated people as it pertains to resources, just because of the fear and anxiety. Lorena was talking about them providing, and by them I mean the COs, the correctional officers, right, the inside cops. They were essentially supposed to be providing a bucket of bleach and cleaning implements for every single like unit, right? And they've provided buckets that barely smell like bleach. And so everyone inside thinks that essentially they're just being given water, or such watered down bleach that like it wouldn't be killing any kind of, you know, bacteria or virus that it comes into contact with. There was also an update from Lorena 2 days ago that was talking about the fact that they have limited showers for folks who might be sick, who are sick, that they're not allowing people to purchase new hygiene items or like replenish their hygiene items at commissary. And that there's just been incredible abuses by the COs, the shouting, the berating, the separating of people who have been on housing units with folks for many years, and shuttling them into new configurations that are even more cramped and condensed. And when Alisha joins us, or if I end up having to read her responses that she sent us, y'all are going to hear a similar kind of characterization there too, where like, there is no logic, or if there is a logic, it's just a logic of punishment and torture. Like, it's not, we're not speaking pejoratively, we're not speaking in a kind of like exaggerated way. Like, what is actually happening with the kind of confinement that we're seeing is nothing short of torturous, and people really need to internalize that and to think about what this means in general. Like, despite there being a global pandemic health crisis, like, this is always a crisis. The confinement of people in prisons, jails, detention facilities, and those confined against their will at mental institutions, like, this is a crisis already. And that's something that we've been talking with our folks on the phone, through letters, through emails, like, y'all, this has been a problem, and really glad that y'all care right now, but like, we really need to kind of expand the framework, and it shouldn't be free them all because of a pandemic. It should be free them all, period. End of story. None of this nonviolent offender, you know, apologetic politics. Like, it needs to be, this is not the way. Like, this is not how we deal with harm. This is not how we respond to community need for healing and transformation, right? And so that's been part and parcel of like conversations that we've been having, and they're even more intensified now in this moment. And so, yeah, just wanted to bring that into the conversation too, and just be like, be real. I'm really nervous. I'm nervous that I won't hear from Alisha today. I mean, Erica, when was the last time you got a call from LeLe?
Was it 2 days ago?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same pattern of, as this pandemic really took hold in the US, I was hearing from her every day.
Yeah.
Which was, nice because I love hearing her voice, but also scary because she was constantly, I don't know what's going on. Uncertainty is stressing me out.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear it in her voice. And then it tapered off to like every other day. And then there was a few days where I didn't hear from her at all. Mm-hmm. And that started to worry me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can see where there was the graph of intense anxiety and uncertainty, and then it kind of fell off. And yeah, it hasn't been as frequent recently.
Right. And it's been the same for video visits. GTL Network, for those who don't know on the call, is a profit-making just monster. They charge exorbitant fees for video visits. And as a gift to us on the outside, they removed for the last like 3.5 weeks, they removed, or like 3 weeks, give or take. What is time right now anyway? It's
actually
horrible.
a month. It's been
it was a whole month. Oh my God. So like 4 weeks. Thank you. Like 4 weeks, they removed the option to have our regular 50 to 55-minute visits and replaced them instead with, oh, she's calling. Okay. I'm going to turn you up so you're nice and loud.
Hey, sexy.
LeLe, can you hear Erica's voice? Yeah. That's Erica. Hi, Erica. Morning. We've got Donna on here too.
Hi.
The gang's all here. and Matilda's on here too. They're on here too.
Hi. Great to hear your voice.
It's so good to hear your voice, babe. We were just, yes, we're not gonna miss this. I know that we only have a few minutes, but we have 20 exactly. Okay. I'm so glad you were able to get on a phone. I'm so relieved. Erica and I were both just, oh my God, the lines have been that long. I love you. You're a fucking champion. Oh. Yeah, we're on here now. Can we start talking through some of these questions that we discussed? Awesome. Wanted to start before we, tell everybody and share about all of the really enraging and upsetting shit that we are definitely going to get to. We wanted to start maybe with a conversation around art and our poetry. Does that sound good? Okay. So when did you actually start making art and writing poetry?
I figured out I could draw a little bit when I was in Logan, and I was stuck in for like all those months when I first got there, and I didn't have nothing else to do. Like, it started out like I was like making boxers and stuff like that, and I was just like messing around. I was like, let me see if I can like draw this, because I wanted to do like pictures and stuff for like my brother, and just like around, it was like around her birthday, and I didn't get to send a birthday card. And I'm like, let me try to go ahead and just draw her birthday card, and it turned out really funny. I was like, huh. And then I was just like, well, let me see if I can. And I was like, well, let me see if I can do more details. And I did. And then it just like, I don't know, it just like kind of doing it. And then people started paying me to like make cards for them. And like local we had paint, so we would like do like outfits. Like I would make boxers and like paint shirts and stuff like that. And then I'm just like, huh. And then I was just like, well, let me draw what I like to see.
Yeah.
And it kind of turned into like that, like, if I like something, I draw it, I speak it, what I want to it. And so, like, I don't know, it was just like, that's how my drawing came. My poems, though, like, I started writing my poems, like, I kind of knew, like, when I was home, that I could, like, put, like, I like, express myself, like, on paper. But I never really, like, sat down and, like, tried to, like, write stuff out.
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with them. I didn't have no way to like release them, and just like the anger, the sadness, I have no idea what to do, and I just like started writing, and I was like, well, let me rhyme this with this, and so it just kind of started coming out that way. I had no idea like what to do with what I was feeling, and I was just like, well, let me just write it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my poetry just came along, and then it's like, it's how like I get like, I'm not really good at talking.
Yeah,
like,
you are.
Well, now, but I wasn't, and I feel like kind of poetry trying to kind of give me that outlet, because like before I wasn't able to like talk my feelings out. Like I didn't know how to like express what I was feeling until I started doing the poetry, and then it was like, okay, this is how I feel. This is what this is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something that we've talked about during visits, and also just like for years now, you've talked about like, you've always been a creative person, and you were like doodling on like everything, like doodling on surfaces and designing like elaborate tattoos, but that the art practice came later. And that the poetry practice came a little bit later than that too, as you began like kind of trying to articulate the pain, articulate your healing process. And just like having that time, that unfortunate time of being inside, but also trying to figure yourself out and figure your shit out too with those artistic mediums.
That's like the main thing of like what like the poetry did for me. It was like it helped me realize like who I was, you know what I'm saying? And like processing why like I allowed certain things, or why I looked at certain things, and why I reacted in certain ways, because you know, like when you're young and your emotions are just like all over the place, you really don't understand. You just act off pure emotion instead of like thinking things through, and then that kind of helped you start going through the process of thinking things through. Of like, okay, let me take a pause and let me jot this down and get this out. Okay, this is what I'm feeling. That's why I feel that way. Okay, but what's the root cause of it?
Right.
And so that's where that's really what like the poetry really helped me like grow as a person, and also like having like this time to like literally like all I did was like focus on me, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally. And it was like, you know, like, you know what I'm saying, before, like, you know how like you know yourself but you don't like know yourself, and that's what this time has gave me, is an opportunity to know what I like, what I don't like, what I'll stand for, what I won't stand for, what I want to do, you know what I'm saying, what I didn't want to do type of person. Like, you know what I'm saying, I went through like this whole change, this whole process of like, I don't like this quality about me, so I want to change it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's helped you focus and stay calm even when you're like on fire and angry, and like it channels that rage in like this really intense way for you. Just like all the stuff that we collected that became the zine A Survivor, Alisha Walker, like all of that was just the most intense, like raw shit, where it was like you were attempting to heal in the face of like this awful state violence, you know? It's so necessary and so important. And kind of related to that, I wanted to see if like you wanted to talk a little bit more about how those art practices, like how drawing or how creating poetry and like using rhyme and word patterns, how has that helped like keep you centered, like keep you like grounded and like show you what you're capable of?
Well, so I cannot, like, if I am not like focused on like drawing, I can't draw. Like literally, like my lines won't look right. Like I have to like be zeroed in on what it is that I'm like what I'm doing. Like I can't just be like, oh, well, let me just go ahead and sketch this out. No, I have to be like having some type of like emotional ass shit going on before I'm able to like sit down and like draw. And that's why like sometimes I'd be like, I don't want to draw. Like I don't want to do it right now. I don't want to feel that into that. You know, because it's the only time that I can focus, because it helps me process the anger, and helps take my distraction away. And like all I do is like I think why I draw. You know what I mean? And if I'm not in the mood to do that, I can't draw. My lines and everything was horrible. I don't know why, but like I can't like it won't happen. But then like on the poetry, like I have to be in the mood to want to write. I don't feel the creative. I'm just like I feel like it's stupid and I won't want to do it. So it's like it's kind of like it's like therapy during that time.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think I've heard you say like
I have it like jotted down right here because I wanted to remind myself of how you've said this before, but you've said like it's helped keep you in your mind, that you've like characterized like making art and poetry as like helping to keep you in your mind. Like what does that mean? What does that mean for you?
Okay, so a lot of times I get so caught up with like the criminalized, like the drama that goes on here, the disrespect from like women, like you're so caught up in thinking about like the time that I missed out on like the pure just like fuckness of it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just get like, and it's so hard to not think about that.
Yeah.
Like it's why like during this time right now is why like my emotions have been all over the place because I don't have something to keep busy. Like I don't have something to like just bring focus on. Like I have my schoolwork, but I've been like trying to like just work out and do my schoolwork and just like
Yeah.
that's why I even said I'm gonna start working. I'm gonna start writing down the book because now that I'm feeling all this stuff, now I want to write. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now that's what I want to do. Because before when I was just like, well, let me just take my time, like I just need to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't have something to do, then I focus on the negative. And it literally like just like eats me up. Like I'll get like so sad and depressed. Like I don't even want to come out of my room.
Yeah.
And then I lash out on everyone around me. And it's not really not good in this environment.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody's going through their own stuff. So it's like that's why like I focus on the future instead of like what's going on in the present or what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Because I have to keep thinking forward because it's the only way I'm gonna get through what I'm going through right now.
Totally. I also just love, and I know that I can't like go into detail on the phone about it, but I love how you have incorporated, I'll say incorporated, maybe snuck messages and symbols into projects. And so I love that you've used your art practice to just like do this like important, subversive, amazing work inside too. So I just want to shout you out for that, always being down and and giving zero fucks. So I also wanted to ask you about the importance of getting zines and newsletters inside, like Black and Pink Zine and like Survived and Punished New York's Free Survivors. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important to get things like that inside?
Okay, so it's so important not only because it makes you realize like other people are going through what you're going through, because in here as women, like we kind of like, especially like in close quarters, we don't like we'll talk, but we don't like to talk too much about like how we're feeling on that because I mean honestly, women here are all kind of a little broken, and sometimes when you talk to someone, they might not process it the way that normal people would, and so they'll use like your vulnerabilities against you. And so you don't want to talk about it, but a lot of times, like when you're like the scenes come through it, and you see what other people are going through, like you're realizing, okay, well they're feeling this too. This is how they're feeling, and then not only that, but the prison will not tell you like what the laws are or what your rights are. Like you have to dig for it.
Mm-hmm.
And not only when you dig for it, then once you realize that it applies to you and that you can do something about it, then you have to fight really hard. And the fact that the newsletters, they tell you, you know what I'm saying, what's going on and how people are fighting and what else is going on, especially like even just like in other states, just the fact that it's happening, there's the glimmer of hope that it could happen here. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you have to know about what's going on. It's the only way to like connect and realize like, okay, we can do something about this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And keeping updated on like the laws and just like how everybody else is moving forward, how everybody else is processing what's going on. Like it's so important. It's so important to keep connected because not only that, but it's also like a connection to the world.
Yeah, totally.
Like so.
You've also talked about how important it is for us to be the people writing our own stories, you know, like for us to be using our voice, like, and so I want to maybe move into that for our next question. And let's see here, scrolling down now. But yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the reasons those zines and newsletters are so important, right, is because it keeps us all connected too. Like it keeps us connected on the outside to y'all inside, and then y'all inside to other folks inside, like what you were saying. It works in all these different ways to continue keeping people connected, even though we can't necessarily call each other all the time. We're not allowed on all the phone lists. We can't do in-person visits if some of us have records. Like all of those things prevent people from being a part and like being of community. And so when we can build community in this creative way, it can really help.
Yeah, like I said before, like if I did not have you guys, I wouldn't have a voice. You know what I'm saying? Like I would not have a voice. I would not be able to say my opinion wouldn't matter, how I felt wouldn't matter. Like literally, like I tell you all the time, like you are my voice. So without you, like I literally would just be everything that like how I feel, I'd be swept underneath the rug, and I kind of feel like that's kind of why I don't get messed with why I'm in here. You know, because they know I will make sure that whatever is going on will get put out, and then they'll get looked at. You know what I'm saying? And then that's the last thing that they want. So I feel like a lot of times, like like
Yeah.
we had to prove that we're not playing with them multiple times, and now I feel like they finally got it.
Yeah.
It took them like 2 years, but then they got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. Like the prisons want to keep y'all invisible. They want to keep your voices shut out of everything, of not just like decision making over what happens to, you know, your bodies and minds, but like they want to keep you cut off from people on the outside. And so we can tell our own stories. We can take back these narratives and get them out there, right? And so that's what these zines and newsletters can do.
Yeah, the person that is so old as tricks, divide and conquer. Like they feel like if they can divide us to keep us away from everybody else, and that means they can go ahead and conquer us and change us into what they think that we should be. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's right.
I change as much as I'm going to correct as a partner correction. That's where I'm at.
I love you.
I love you.
What do you, so in our last few minutes here, we've got like 4 minutes left. What do you want people to know right now about what's happening inside during this pandemic?
That they're fucking liars. So I guess on the news, there was some girl that talked on the news from Logan, and she was like, that they said that they're supposed to, they have like hand sanitizers and they're getting their temperatures and everything checked. Well, we're not getting that.
That's not, yeah, that's not happening at Logan. That's a lie. That's not happening at Logan.
Yeah, yeah, well, it's not happening here at all.
Yeah.
We have the non-alcohol hand sanitizer, which of course you know this means nothing. And you know, thing is kind of just like stay inside. You know, they,
Yeah.
like, some of the fields aren't even wearing their gloves all the time. They take their masks off. You know, because it irritates them, and you know, it's just like, and then like I feel it's just like you know, I'm pretty sure Sarah updated you about what was going on.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like scary. You know what I'm saying? About,
Yeah.
you know, what it is that could possibly, you know, thing like a deliberate attempt to hurting us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? And then like not only that, but like it's just hectic. Like we're all stuck here on the unit in tension. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to argue. You know what I'm saying? You have like the phone lines. Like I said, I have to sit here and wait. The phone lines are so hectic that if I would have waited until, I don't know, 10:30 to get, you know, 45 to get in line, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Thank God that they all went to chow and I stood here and held my spot down.
Yeah.
Because had that not happened, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't have been able to be on the phone right now.
Right.
So it's just kind of like everything is just I just got my contract, so my out date is now October 30th. But I was supposed to graduate the horticulture and get both of my certificates in July. Now I'm finishing it in May, so now I'm missing out on all that whole like month and a half of, you know, thing of days that I could have been getting to get out earlier.
Right.
So it's like everything's just
It's fucked.
It's just up in the air.
Yeah, and like I remember for a while when we were starting our phone calls, you would start the phone call by saying social distancing does not exist in prison. You were like, this is not real.
It does not. Like literally, we don't even have a foot between us.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm sitting next to someone on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as social distancing. I share a bathroom with 8 women. You know what I'm saying? Like, I share a seat with 4 women. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's, you go to chow, and you wait in a line. Like, yeah, you have to sit 3 feet. You have to sit 3 chairs apart. And when you go to chow, stupid. Fuck you.
Last thoughts, LeLe, before they disconnect us. Anything else you want to share?
Love you guys. That's it.
We love you too.
Oh,
So much.
thank you so much.
I have something that I want you to do for me, so I'm gonna have to call you back.
Yeah, babe.
I don't know when. Are you gonna be busy later?
No, just call me whenever.
All right. Eric, I'll see you on the 26th. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'll see you Sunday. You get to see the view from my window.
I love you. We love you.
I love you.
We love you so much. Thank you for taking time.
So much.
Bye. Okay. So Alisha is the goddamn best. I know I'm swearing a lot. I'm from the rural South. This is how we talk.
Part of our whole
And
being.
exactly. And I pretty much still know every single person on this. So eventually, once it is recorded, then people will know my true limited vocabulary swearing self. But until then, oh my God, y'all. No one should be in a fucking cage. No one should be in fucking prison. I know we were cut off there at the end, so I wanted to read a portion of what Alisha had emailed about the conditions too. And for the most part, could people hear, even though it was a little garbled sometimes?
Yeah, it cut out a little bit here and there, but I was able to hear most of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make
okay.
sure to do our best captioning it too.
Cool.
So that should help a lot.
Thanks, Matilda. What's been happening now that since everyone is being condensed, well, let me just go ahead. I'll start with Alicia's words. They're more important. And then I can, raps angrily about what that means for the phone quality after that. So Alisha had sent this via writing, and I want it to be a part of this recording. Social distancing does not exist in prisons. They're cramming us in here like sardines. None of these policies make sense or make us safer. They've condensed us to a few units, all on the same side of the prison, creating what we all think is a death ward for when the virus gets in. Then they'll isolate us over there. It feels like they don't care if we get sick or if we die. A lot of us are already sick in here and they don't care. Our phone use has been cut to 20 minutes max. Our video visits were cut down to only 15 minutes. The Wi-Fi barely works. Sometimes we can get the Connect network emails to work, but we can't reply, so we can read them, but we have no ability to write back to folks. Commissary has been restricted and shopping limited. For cleaning supplies, we get bleach water and a rag to share. It's a joke. It's a deadly fucking joke. It's hell in here. The fear and anxiety that the whole country is in a panic over this virus thing and we're trapped, unable to be in contact with loved ones, but in direct contact with COs and who knows where the hell they've been. I want people to know we're in here and that we want out. We want and deserve to be safe. Please do something, get pissed and do something. So I wanted to share out that written response as well. And just also say, like, a few weeks back when Alisha and I were on the phone and the governor had been kind of compelled to do a few releases, which I don't know the exact numbers on, but they are not where they should be, obviously, because Alisha is still inside and there's still people in prison. So the releases are not mass and they are not what they need to be. I could hear, like, we were on the phone and I could hear all of a sudden this like booming, like, din of noise. And I could barely hear Alicia's voice. And it was just the COs shouting what seemed like inches away from the folks who were using the phones. And the very next day I heard a second kind of din, and it was the shouts of women being released and other folks being released.
because their names were getting called up and they were having to like move everything out on carts from their like housing unit. And so it was just like this really mixed emotional space that was like super garbled. I like couldn't distinguish all of what was being said behind Alisha, but I could just hear the like exclamations and screams and cries mixed with the COs just like shouting at people. And it was really, really incredibly intense. And the kind of sound that's being heard now behind Alisha, like the kind of noise that we're hearing has typically now just been completely COs arguing with folks inside, shouting at folks inside, and then folks inside kind of arguing amongst themselves, waiting for the phones because these like tensions keep building and keep mounting, and resources are being spread so thin inside. And so that sound that you could hear behind Alisha, I just wanted to give that some characterization too. With all of that, with everything that we've been talking about, we're still also going to be talking about why we make things in the face of these conditions and in the face of like state violence and dealing with criminalization and like our own mental health, like being like completely, I'll leave it at that. And so we wanted to make space to talk about why zines, like why make these things, like why put our time and energy and resources into making these objects. And like LeLe was saying, zine and art making can be these practices, right, of self-care and collective care. We all learn and process shit in different ways. And so being able to creatively construct responses to criminalization, to oppression, and exercise our own narrative making is so important. We've been making zines as a collective from the beginning, and our main creations have been taking the form of these like yearbook perzines. Perzine means personal zines, so like usually reflective based, that chronicle the year's actions and events and our feelings, right? So the hardships and the breakthroughs, the things that made us feel like we were, you know, grasping onto some powerful activity, and also feeling disconnected and feeling shot down. So all of that stuff has been pumped into, you know, those zines. Our first zine, which was Support Hose Year One, this one, was an amazing joint project that included all of our political education reading circle comrades in Chicago. So a lot of us have been making and trading and collecting zines since our teens. There's a really rich tradition of radical sex worker made popular literature and zines. I'm just thinking right now of Gender Trash, Maggie's, Be Easy, Stay Safe by Gingivitis, Leave Us Alone. I've got that one here. Also thinking of Our Voices. I've also got that one here. Hoe Lover, who can forget this phenomenal read about relationship building. Also the incomparable Don't Hate My Heels. Incredible work here. And basically all of Emi Koyama's work. This is the one that I just have at the ready here right now. All of Emi's zines are incredible. And I could go on and on. There's such a rich tradition and legacy of hoe zines, and also just like sex worker literature and popular like print material and ephemera. Sex workers love to make a flyer, y'all. Like, we love that. Zines are also a way for us to tell our own stories, right? Without relying on mainstream media or book deals. Although if you are in publishing and are listening to this, you need to give whores more book deals. Please fucking call us. We could really use that. We want to tell stories. Zines are way more affordable than books. People can make their own copies and pass these things around and trade them. We can tell our own stories more accessibly for ourselves by using images and text, right? And so that helps to actually like set the record straight around things, do political education, chronicle activity. So for instance, Alisha, you know, uses her art practice to mediate and alleviate stress, right? I make collages to calm the fuck down. Donna creates poetry and reflective embodied performances of resistance and memory. Erica speaks her truth like Riot Girl style, taking down our enemies by cutting and pasting and likely farting on those images while making them, right? Amazing powerhouses, both of these femmes. Aaron writes, and a lot and beautifully, about all the pain that we hold. He is sung and writhed around on stage in an anarchic frenzy to raise money for Alicia's commissary. We've all documented these experiences and these ways of engaging with the world in our zines. And we hope that these like bundles of paper, right? These little talismans of resistance and ink become tangible proof that horrors fought back and that our voices and art have power together and that we can make powerful narratives together. I want to give a special shout out to Julia Arredondo, formerly of Vice Versa Press, who's now making art under the Curandera Press, and also want to shout out Chartreuse Jennings for all of their artistic support and making that has helped us get these beautiful visual representations of like what we're all about, which is this high heel stomping on this little dude. And I also want to thank Jonas Cannon of Midwestern Zine Fest, Fixer Eraser, and We the Drowned zines for always making sure that sex workers had space at their table and at any zine fest. And also our dear comrade, Martin Katza, for ensuring the same. I think that zinesters have this incredible like community-based response to stuff, right? Like we have these beautiful things that we want to share in the world, and we get like fiercely passionate about ensuring that people get these things right into their hands, into their laps, and into their lives in whatever way we can. We do zine readings to make things accessible. We experiment with different kinds of zines, whether they be digital, whether they be the Xerox copied, things that I'm a little bit more familiar with and more comfortable with. There are, you know, zines that are just all images, and however these things, however, or whatever the shape they take, they can be really powerful organizing tools and also just tools of healing. And so that's one of the reasons why we do these things, why we make. So I wanted to move into some time now to share some readings, and wanted to kick things off by sharing a piece of Alicia's poetry. It's a piece that's just called Whore. It's by Alisha Walker, and it's from the zine A Survivor, Alisha Walker. So this was a joint project of the Support Host Collective, which we basically had Alisha just mail us everything, so handwritten poems, different pieces of art that were mostly graphite on paper with some colored pencils. She also was like making this like incredible nail polish art for a while, which she was making her own nail polish, which I won't go into the details on here because I don't want to out anybody's ingenuity and get like that contraband taken from them, because everybody needs their nail polish. But she was like operating at this level of ingenuity to make art all the time, and was just sending us stuff and wanted it compiled into a zine. And so we took all of those things, retyped, transcribed, did stuff over the phone, and would just like to have like all that stuff in one place. And so that's how that zine came to be, rather. Sorry, I'm like trying to read the chat at the same time as talking, and clearly I can't do that even at 12:30 in the afternoon. So I want to start with that piece from Alisha. I wrote the poem Whore because I'm an incarcerated one, and I'm incarcerated for being a whore who survived, so I'll never turn my back on whores. Hasn't the government done enough to try and separate us? I'm writing this as a young, queer, mixed woman. I wrote this poem to celebrate International Whores Day. Whores are the hardest working people I know, and I'm proud to be in their ranks. I didn't know about this day when I was working, but now I'm locked up and I know about it, and I need it. I want to be connected to whores around the world who are fighting. I want us to shut down the shame, shut down the racist pigs. whores will rise. Whore. Why use such a nasty word? Wait, was this word nasty and tasteless not too long ago? Sex workers, prostitutes, escorts, strippers. A list could go on, including the word whore. Whores provide. We give love, attention, and a listening ear for coin. Being a whore is work. This ain't all I am, but it is an important part. Honestly, I thought we all evolved as a society. Putting the reins on a word because some like it and some don't, it's ridiculous. Say, when International Whores Day started in 1975, the whores of France banded together because they were sick and tired of being harassed and abused by the same people who use their services. They were tired of the cops. They were tired. Isn't that our fight? To bring awareness to us whores, to stop the neglect and abuse caused to us by the ones who still can't stamp us out? Being a whore isn't a category of sexuality. It is a right to express oneself as a worker. Why is everyone scared of whores? Well, shit, maybe they should be. Whores are taking power back. In solidarity and ho love, signed A Whore for Life, LeLe. So that's from this scene here. And I excerpted it because I'm sneaky, and if you want to read the entire thing, you got to buy it, which goes directly to Alisha's commissary. So that's this piece, which is just one of like 20 some odd beautiful and intense and deeply upsetting and deeply empowering pieces that Alisha has in this collection. And so I also wanted to share Donna's reflection from the zine, which is Support Hose Year 2. It's this one here. And I'm also going to excerpt it because you don't get all of Donna's words for free. So here we go. I've never been good with dates or timelines. There isn't an exact date or moment where I felt more or less like an organizer or an activist. I just remember too many high school nights spent huddled with my poetry team around a TV, watching another white police officer get away with murder. I wondered what it was doing to us to watch as judges, jurors, and prosecutors keep indictment at bay, and to know as young people we could be murdered on camera and that there would be no form of justice. My politics has always been deeply tied to my poetry, to the people I shared that poetry with, and the people I wrote poems about. The first poem I wrote that mattered to me was about my time as a houseless young person, and the next about my phone calls with my brother on the inside, and so forth. I was finding my words at the same time as I was going to protests and leading chants. I never confidently picked a political party, because that's not what determined for me whether someone deserved to live a life with dignity and care. Showing up for vigils and jail support at Cook County Juvenile Corrections, fighting for bail reform at City Hall, demanding police accountability and exposing militancy in the CPD, walking out when schools were closed and supporting Chicago teachers on strike, fighting for a living minimum wage was always connected to holding it down for incarcerated sex workers and moms at Slutwalk Chicago. Showing up, whether that be virtually or in person, was about demanding folks be heard and that we mattered to somebody. And even if it wasn't, the people who were impacted in all of these spaces usually overlapped. And even if they didn't, there was never a good enough reason for me not to go if I had the time and energy. When people ask me why I'm here, I say, why not? Why sex workers? Why sluts? Why queers? Why disabled people? Donna, why? I say, why not show up if I've got it in me? Would I want someone to list the reasons not to give their time if I were in need? If my family was in need? If my people's life was on the line? That's not solidarity. We all need each other, and we all have something to offer, and only we can offer what we got. So that's from this one. And Donna, I hope I did you justice. I hope I did your words justice. And this is in this scene here, and it's excerpted. Wanted to just read one last piece, and this one is from Erin in Support Hose, New York. It's also from this scene, and it's the closing remarks for this scene. It turns out the political is personal insofar as the personal is political. The movement for sex workers' rights has a necessarily short memory in some regards and a notoriously long one in others. We don't forget the White Slave Traffic Act, and we keep receipts on FOSTA and SESTA for a long while. But we understand that radical community must morph and reorganize, galvanize and sunset as conditions change and tactics are proven more or less successful, as new formations become necessary and others outlive their usefulness. The enemies and adversaries are numerous, some inadvertent, many whose charge is predicated completely on eradicating not just a set of professions, industries, and survival strategies, but the very idea that people, mostly women and femmes, have the capacity, self-awareness, and responsibility to govern their own bodies, time, and way of living. Those who make the laws, adjudicate and enforce them, are hardly surprising obstacles to getting free. Political expediency, moral panic, and furious impotence expressed as power over are far from limited to state violence toward sex working people. But through another year of this project, it's those who ought to have a stake, the radicals, the workers for whom federal legislation isn't a near-death sentence, the Marxists who preach solidarity of a working, the underclass, the choice activists, the prison abolitionists, the better world anarchists to whom we sound the alarm. It's not personal for you, perhaps, not yet, even if someone you love is a former or current sex worker, possibly because this work seems secondary. It seems based on choice. It might be that somehow you figure that when the bigger problems are taken care of, this one will naturally follow. People die, risk harm in various levels and valences of working conditions markedly unsafe due to criminalization. They're harassed by cops and other agents of the state in unspeakable ways. They are stigmatized at levels which magnify those experienced by women, queers, trans folks, and people of color. But that's what we all struggle against anyway, no? No, I think not. This is your flashpoint, your crucible for your leftist politics, for people's control over their own bodies and futures that they choose and seek. Any activism, any organizing, any conversation about women's rights or queer rights or trans rights, Black and brown liberation, which misses sex work, it misses. You can call the workers miners' canaries, or you can call them vanguards. Either might be apt in its way. I am another year into the struggle, having moved my own activism back into a classroom, and honestly, it's fish in a barrel. Anyone with a heart and half a brain when presented with the facts is forced into empty platitudes and vacant moralizing when attempting to argue against the full decriminalization and immediate decarceration of people. That students who have not reached their quarter century can pick up on this in all of its immediacy, while anyone involved in whatever leftist quote unquote movement struggles to keep up is boggling. You see in these pages, mixture of the bullhorn and the pamphlet, another score of months off of our incarcerated comrades' caging, another set of tragic, utterly preventable losses, and screaming into the sky, both literally and figuratively, resistance. Sign on or get the fuck out of the way. So that's, again, a piece excerpted from Support Hose Year 2 zine, written by one of our comrades. And y'all, in closing, We've created artistic resistance through visual works, amplified Alisha's poetry practice, fundraised, held demonstrations, made consciousness raising zines for ourselves and fellow sex workers, and demanded our comrades on the left center sex workers' experiences and everyone in the trade when developing their analyses. And we've only been able to do that work because of intentional relationship building and learning alongside LeLe and other incarcerated sex working comrades that she's connected us with. Like, there is no one without the other. I want to be really clear about that.
Agreed.
Since all of Alisha's appeals have been denied, we've focused more intensely on a clemency campaign, honing in on Governor J.B. Pritzker's purported progressivism, and of course, maintaining material support and commissary aid for Alisha while she's inside. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to help some of her friends and chosen family and lovers who also need help when we can. And want to shout out the Third Wave Fund for helping to make that a reality for us to continue to do our work. The Third Wave Fund is so important. They are modeling what it actually looks like to support people who are doing the work, who never get grants, like grassroots organizations who are just like completely abandoned by mainstream nonprofits and grant givers. Like, Third Wave Fund shows up for people and primarily shows up for youth and trans youth of color, and like they keep showing up. So many thanks and appreciations to give for Third Wave for helping us realize our organizing work. We've established a post-release fund that people can contribute toward. And so again, we'll provide all of these links and resources, both in the description of our recording, but we can, these are also things that are all on our website that we can drop in the chat as well. But we've started this post-release fund for Alisha that folks, we're encouraging y'all to also amplify and give to if you actually have money to give. We've worked with Hacking Hustling, which is another sex worker-led collective, to co-create a funded project for Alisha when she's out, that she's helped design. And so when she's home, she's got not just housing and not just a post-release fund, but this project-based work that she's tailored and like created the parameters for. Because housing and material support when folks get out is overlooked by lots of mainstream organizations, by lots of nonprofits that work with folks who are incarcerated. And like, I've just got to be really real about that. If we are not showing up and literally housing our people when they come out of prisons, we're not doing enough. And so I'm just hearing Monica Cosby in my ears right now, sitting and having beers with her months ago, just like hearing that. And like, that is the lesson that I think we need to take back to all of our formations, is like, how do we get smart and get safe and get working on housing justice for folks when they come out. Alisha has 19 months left, y'all, unless J.B. Pritzker can be forced to do the right thing and free everyone who is incarcerated in Illinois during this pandemic. And we can do a lot more as a broader community, and we need to. We've got to keep lifting up our incarcerated sex worker family and agitate to get them free, especially now amidst this global health crisis and pandemic. I want to urge people to look into the work and also the calls to action from Survived and Punished, from Moms United Against Violence and Incarceration, from Love and Protect, and also from Free Them All for Public Health. So please, please, please look into those organizations and formations who are just spearheading and guiding and leading with such force of love and care and action. And also read zines made by sex workers. Like, we talked about several of them just on this call, as I was like, you know, just sharing a few out, but like, read zines made by sex workers. Make your own zines. Subscribe to prison abolitionist newsletters like Free Survivors, and write to incarcerated people. More people right now are learning about and deepening their own mutual aid and mutual care practices. And that is so hopeful to see, and it is incredibly life-giving. And also, it's going to take all of us to resist the death blows of capitalism and the racist whorephobia of carcerality. And so we need to get to work and we need to support one another in this work. And it can look like creating for one another and creating to bring people on board with these struggles. So with that, I will shut up. I want to just thank Bluestockings again and thank all y'all for joining us this morning and this afternoon to just talk zines and newsletters and listen to Alisha's voice together and to be mad together and to lift each other up. So good to hear Donna and Erica's voices on here as well. I love y'all so much. Thank you for everything that you do and for being such an intrinsic part of this collective. And please, y'all, follow our work online since we are online all the time now. And follow the projects that we've mentioned too. We'll continue to drop those things into not just the recording description, but I'll make sure that they're all boosted and lifted on our socials pages right now. So the second you go to them, you can access those things too. Matilda, do you have anything to send us off with?
So Red, I want to say thank you so much for your strength and your message and for holding this space with us, which is a fraught but important space. And I'm going to close out by thanking everybody who attended and reminding you to, if I've just shouted too many links at you, follow Bluestockings and we'll get you the rest of them. So thanks so much, y'all.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.